Hello, welcome back to the one and only Ivan Read Alouds. We are going to pick up on page 97 today. Before, of course, we'll do our flip back to check out where we're at to get our brain bookmarks out in case we forgot where we're at. Remember, good readers do that, right? We'll be able to flip back and look and recognize what happened or what we read last time, and it helps orient us or helps set us straight for what we're about to read, right? Because we want to read for a purpose and really try to help our comprehension. So here we go. I'm flipping back here. If you want to flip back along with me and look, they're talking about. Oh wow, duh, Ruby, right? She's here. They're telling jokes with each other. They're really trying to. Ivan's drawing pictures for us. They're talking about how being an artist is so great and how Ivan loves it and how Julia loves it. And Ruby's like, "Why do you draw? That's boring." But Ivan really likes it, right? He said it's calming and it's helps him escape, helps him feel good, right? Um, so that was kind of it, right? We got to know a little bit more about Ruby's family. We talked about that. Then she was taken from the wild, and now she's here. Our last discussion question um, was about why was Stella not happy they were there, that Ruby was there. A lot of you thought it was jealousy because she was going to lose the spotlight, but some of you also thought it was because Stella knew that Ruby's life was going to be like hers now, tied to the floor, stuck in the domain. Um, Being abused or being treated not so good by Mac, perhaps. So here we go. Children. Once I asked Stella if she'd ever had any babies. She shook her head. I never had the opportunity. You would have been a great mother, I told her. Thank you, Ivan, Stella said, clearly pleased. I like to think so. Having young ones is a big responsibility. You have to teach them how to take mud baths, of course, and emphasize the importance of fiber in their diet. She looked away, contemplating. I think the hardest part of being a parent, Stella added after a while, would be keeping your babies safe from harm, protecting them. The way silverbacks do in the jungle, I said. Exactly, Stella nodded. You would have been a good protector too, I said confidently. I'm not sure, Stella said, gazing at the iron bars surrounding her. I'm not sure at all. The parking lot. Mac and George are chatting while George cleans one of my windows. George, Mac says, frowning. There's something wrong with the parking lot. George sighs. I'll take a look at it soon, when I'm done with this window. What's the problem? There are cars in it. That's what's wrong. Cars, George. Mac breaks into a grin. I think things are actually starting to pick up a bit. It's gotta be the billboard. People see that baby elephant and they just have to stop and spend their hard-earned cash. I hope so, George says. We sure could use the business. Mac's right. I've noticed more visitors coming since he and George added the picture of Ruby to the sign. People crowd around Ruby in Stella's domain, oohing and eyeing at the sight of such a tiny elephant. I gaze out at the huge sign that makes humans stop and spend their hard-earned cash. I have to admit that the picture of Ruby is rather cute, even if she doesn't look like a real elephant. I wonder if Mac could add a little red hat and a curly tail to the picture of me. Maybe then more visitors would stop by my domain. I could use a few oohs and ahs myself. Ruby's story. Ivan, tell me another joke, please. Ruby begs after the 2 o'clock show. I think I may have run out of jokes, I admit. A story then, Ruby says. Aunt Stella's sleeping and there's nothing to do. I tap my chin. I'm trying hard to think, but when I gaze up at the food court skylight, I am mesmerized by the elephant-colored clouds galloping past. Can you picture that? Ivan laying there staring up, looking at clouds. Ruby bothering him, asking him for a story. Remember, we're trying to visualize. Ruby taps her foot impatiently. I know, I'll tell you a story, she said. A real, live, true one. Good idea, I say. What's it about? It's about me. Ruby lowers her voice. It's about me and how I fell into a hole. A big hole. Humans dug it. Bob perks his ears and joins me in the window. I always enjoy a good digging story, he says. It was a big hole full of water near a village, Ruby says. I don't know why humans made it. Sometimes you just need to dig for the sake of digging, Bob reflects. We were looking for food, Ruby says, my family and I, but I wandered off and I got lost and I went close to the village. Ruby looks at me, eyes wide. I was so scared when I fell into the hole. Of course you were, I say. I would have been scared too. Me too, Bob admits, and I like holes. The hole was huge. Ruby pokes her trunk between the bars and makes a circle in the air. And guess what? She doesn't wait for an answer. The water was all the way up to my neck, and I was sure that I was going to die. I shudder. Then what happened? I ask. I'll tell you what happened, Bob says darkly. They captured her, put her in a box, and shipped her off, and here she is, just like they did with Stella. He pauses to scratch his ear. Humans. Rats have bigger hearts. Roaches have kinder souls. Flies have... No, Bob, Ruby interrupts. You're wrong. These humans helped me. When they saw I was trapped, they grabbed ropes, and they made loops around my neck and my tummy. The whole entire village helped. And the little kids and grandmas and grandpas, and they all pulled and pulled. Ruby stops. Her lashes are wet, and I know she must be remembering all the terrible things from that day. And they saved me, she finishes with a whisper. Bob blinks. They saved you? He repeats. When I was finally out, everyone cheered, Ruby says. And the children fed me fruit, and then all the humans led me back to my family. It took the whole day to find them. No way, Bob says, still doubtful. It's true, Ruby says. Every word. Of course it's true, I say. I've heard of rescue stories like that before. It's Stella's voice. She sounds weary. Slowly she makes her way over to Ruby. Humans can surprise you sometimes. An unpredictable species, Homo sapiens. Bob still looks unconvinced. But Ruby's here now, he points out. If humans are so swell, why or how or who did that to her? I send Bob a grumpy look. Sometimes he doesn't know when to keep quiet. Ruby swallows, and I'm afraid she's going to cry. But when she speaks, her voice is strong. Bad humans killed my family, and bad humans sent me here. But that day in the hole, it was humans who saved me. Ruby leans her head on Stella's shoulder. Those humans were good. Doesn't make any sense, Bob says. I just don't understand them. I never will. You're not alone, I say, and I turn my gaze back to the racing gray clouds. Wow. So, that's a crazy story. Showing the other side of humans, right? Bob doesn't believe it, but Ruby just told that story. That's a crazy story, right? A hit. Stella's foot hurts too much for her to do any hard tricks for the 2 o'clock show. Instead, Mac pulls her limping into the ring where she tracks a circle in the sawdust. Ruby clings to her like a shadow. Ruby's eyes go wide when Snickers jumps on Stella's back, then leaps onto her head. At the 4 o'clock show, Stella can only get as far as the entrance to the ring. Ruby refuses to leave her side. At the 7 o'clock show, Stella stays in her domain. When Mac comes for Ruby, Stella whispers something in her ear. Ruby looks at her pleadingly, but after a moment, she follows Mac to the ring. Ruby stands alone. The bright lights make her blink. She flaps her ears. She makes her tiny trumpet sound. The humans stop eating their popcorn. They coo. They clap. Ruby is a hit. I don't know whether to be happy or sad. That's where we're stopping today, guys. I know I'm leaving you on a little hanger here, but so Stella can't perform right now. Her leg's hurting too bad, and it looks like she was trying to help train Ruby, and now Ruby, as you can see on that page, she's all there alone. She looks pitiful, right? So I like that last line. I want you to think about that. I don't know whether to be happy or sad. That's what Ivan said about it. So we're going to stop there and check for some activities to do with this, and I hope you enjoyed.